The drama surrounding Caitlin Clark didn't start with a game-winning shot or a viral highlight this time. It started behind closed doors, inside a training facility in Indianapolis, where cameras weren't supposed to reveal much. And yet, somehow everything began to leak out. At first it was just whispers, short clips, a few seconds here, a few seconds there. But those few seconds were enough to spark something massive, because what people were seeing didn't look like a team easing into a new season. It looked like something far more dangerous. A team that had quietly rebuilt itself into a legitimate threat while no one was paying attention. And at the center of it all, just like always, was Caitlin Clark. For months, there had been one question hanging over the Indiana Fever, a question nobody could confidently answer. Not analysts, not fans, not even the most optimistic insiders. After everything Clark had been through, the injuries, the long months away from the court, the uncertainty, would she come back the same, or would something be missing? Because history isn't kind to athletes returning from extended layoffs. Timing slips, confidence wavers. That instinct, that almost supernatural ability to read the game half a second before it unfolds, sometimes fades just enough to make a difference. And Caitlin Clark's entire game is built on that edge. So when training camp opened, the anticipation wasn't just about a new season, it was about a test, a moment of truth. But what happened next didn't just answer the question, it shattered it. The footage coming out of those early practices didn't show a player finding her rhythm. It showed a player who had never lost it. No-look passes slicing through defenders like they weren't even there. Deep three-pointers falling with the ease of a warm-up drill. Movements that didn't look rehearsed. They looked instinctive, automatic, almost effortless. It wasn't just that she was back. It was that she looked better, stronger, sharper, more in control. And suddenly the conversation shifted, because this wasn't just about Caitlin Clark returning to form. This was about what happens when a player like her returns to a team that has quietly transformed around her. Last season, the Fever had potential. You could see it in flashes, moments where everything clicked, where the pieces almost fit together, but injuries, inconsistency, and a lack of depth held them back. They fought, they pushed, but when it mattered most, they didn't have enough. This time feels different, and you can see it in the way the team moves, because while the spotlight stayed fixed on Clark, something else was happening in the background. Decisions were being made, commitments were being secured, pieces were being locked into place. Take Kelsey Mitchell, for example. Coming off the best season of her career, she had every reason to walk away. She had the numbers, the recognition, the leverage to go anywhere she wanted and demand exactly what she felt she deserved. And yet, when the moment came, she didn't leave. She stayed, not because she had to, but because she believed in what was being built in Indiana, because she saw something in that locker room, something that went beyond contracts and statistics. A connection, a chemistry that couldn't be replicated somewhere else. And that decision mattered more than people realize, because on the court, Mitchell and Clark don't just coexist, they amplify each other. When one draws attention, the other exploits it. When defenses collapse, space opens. When pressure builds, opportunities appear. It's not just talent, it's synergy. And then there's Aaliyah Boston, still young, still evolving, but already anchoring the team in a way that most players take years to develop. Her presence doesn't always show up in highlight reels, but it shows up where it matters. In stability, in defense, in moments when everything could fall apart but doesn't. She's the balance, the foundation that allows everything else to function. And when you combine that with players like Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham, who could have easily chased bigger roles elsewhere but chose to stay, you start to see the bigger picture forming. This isn't just a collection of talent, it's a group that chose each other, and that changes everything, because talent can win games, but chemistry wins championships. And that chemistry, the kind you can't fake, the kind that shows up in the smallest moments, is already visible in the way this team operates. You see it in the spacing, in the communication, in the trust. There's a moment from one of the scrimmages that perfectly captures it. Clark, without even looking, threads a pass through traffic to Boston, who cuts at exactly the right time and finishes like it's second nature. It's the kind of play that usually takes seasons to develop, but here, it's happening in practice. And that's what makes this so dangerous, because while everyone else else is still trying to figure out their rotations, their identities, their rhythm. Indiana looks like they've already found theirs, but it doesn't stop there. Behind the scenes, the front office made moves that didn't grab headlines, but might end up defining the season. Depth was added, experience was brought in, weaknesses that were exposed last year were quietly addressed. The bench that once struggled to hold leads now looks capable of maintaining, even extending them. The defensive intensity, once a concern, has reportedly reached a level that's turning heads within the organization itself. And then there's the coach. Stephanie White isn't just managing a roster, she's shaping an identity, one that doesn't rely solely on star power, but builds around it, one that understands how to maximize Caitlin Clark's brilliance without becoming dependent on it, because that's the real challenge. Not just having a superstar, but building a system where that superstar elevates everyone, and everyone in turn supports the system. And from everything coming out of training camp, that's exactly what's happening. But here's where the story takes an even more interesting turn, because as dominant as this team looks in isolation, the reality of the WNBA hasn't changed. This isn't an easy path. There are other contenders, established teams with experience, depth, and their own championship ambitions. No one is handing Indiana anything, and maybe that's exactly what makes this moment so compelling, because this team has already been through the struggle. The losses, the injuries, the doubt, the constant noise from critics who questioned whether they could ever truly put it all together. And instead of breaking under that pressure, they absorbed it. They grew from it. They came back stronger. Now, with a healthy Caitlin Clark leading the charge, a committed core surrounding her, and a system that finally looks complete, the question isn't whether they can compete, it's how far they can go, because if what we're seeing in training camp translates to the regular season, and that's always the big if, then the entire landscape of the league could shift, gradually but suddenly. And that's why this footage feels so important. It's not just highlights from practice, it's a glimpse into what might be coming, a preview of a team that isn't just aiming to make the playoffs, but to take control of the entire conversation. So now it comes down to this. Are we witnessing the rise of a championship team in real time? Or is this just another moment of preseason hype that fades when the real games begin? What do you think? Does this version of the Indiana Fever have what it takes to go all the way, or is there another team ready to stop them? Drop your predictions in the comments. And if you want more story-driven breakdowns like this, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay locked in, because this season is shaping up to be something you don't want to miss.